find out what their needs are so that because if they're the face of your company, you have to also keep them in a good mood. And if something's going wrong in their home life, you kind of need to be a little empathetic toward it, not always just so, hey, you only worked like 4 hours last week. Well, instead of being concerned of only 4 hours, why only 4 hours? Maybe if they're going through something, talk to your employees and make sure that they're always there. They're, if they've ever have any issues with something, people have kind of lost the role of a boss, and
that's all.
really
I mean,
know.
they think of them as like a boss and stuff
Yeah.
too. And like when you change the dynamics of working with the leadership team,
Right.
and they actually kind of treat you like a team member, opposed to just being like
Exactly.
A number or another employee. And I can actually take some. I bet we all can have some experience with this. Like when I worked at Quick Trip, any management that would take the trash out or get off the cash registers and onto the floor, it was like, oh my God, you're the best manager. I love you. You're actually taking yourself like off this pedestal to where you're like, oh, it's not my title to take out the trash, or it's not my title to do this. And they actually get out and they do what everyone else does to be a good team player,
Right.
to help out the store overall. Was a big deal, and a lot of us agreed on that.
I think there's a big difference between a manager and a leader. A manager is just somebody who's going to tell you what to do, whereas a leader is somebody that is going to lead by example and be able to not just show you the right way to do things, but actually help you.
Be there
accomplish
alongside you.
those. Yeah, be alongside you and
Right.
be able to guide you through the process by actually showing you how to do it himself and be able to provide that guidance that way.
Right.
Yeah, totally agree. So would you say that employee retention impacts customer satisfaction?
I believe so. I think that, there has to be a happy medium, right? You have to be able to take care of your customers, but you also have to be able to take care of your employees, right? And I think if you take care of your employees, that's going to transfer and trickle down to your customers, right? A happy employee is going to take care of your good customers. At the same time, I think a lot of times it can be overdone.
Yeah.
I've been in some companies where it literally turned into a party, and that's all you ever really did, and didn't really get anything done. But at the same time, you have to have some flexibility. You have to have the ability for your employees to have a work-life balance and be able to be happy outside of work.
And that work-life balance has become so much more important in our generation than it has prior to. Our parents' generations, it's like work hard, be dedicated, show up early, stay late, and they've worked themselves to death. And our generation is like, okay, we've seen them do that. Doesn't sound like fun. I want to have some freedom to where I can take a vacation, or I can travel or something a little bit too,
Not to mention, now with COVID, that's changed a lot of people's perspective as well.
Being able to work
people started
remote and
working
stuff.
from home, and nowadays it's difficult to get some of those people to come back to the office where they've gotten used to working from home and having that freedom of, hey, if I need to take the dog out, I'm here at home. I can just let him out and come back in, and I'm still back at work. Whereas nowadays, there's a lot of companies that are bringing a lot of employees back to the office, and that's, maybe causing a detriment for some of the employees that had kind of gotten used to working from home.
Yeah, for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Give or take. It's been a while. Because COVID-19 or 20? It was 20, wasn't it?
End of 19.
End of 19, yeah.
It really is. So I think the first case over here was
October, November.
No, it was like January or February of 2020.
The first official case was early January.
Because they thought it was
2020.
the flu before that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they closed it in February is when they shut it down.
That's when it got really hardcore. Was February 2020.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's been almost 3 years now.
Yeah.
And so wow.
And it still doesn't feel like we're over.
No.
I still see people with masks all over town, still in their car driving around with masks.
We've all got COVID by now. At least
I've
once.
never understood that. Why are you in? And I don't want to get too off topic here, but why are you in your car by yourself wearing a mask?
It's airborne.
I mean, it's got to go through the car air filter
maybe it
first.
is, yeah.
The cabin air filter.
And then it has to be transmitted by somebody nearby.
Yeah.
Right.
You're the only one.
You're
in
at a
the SUV, but
stoplight.
you're okay.
Your cars are
Windows up and everything.
I don't know. So they say, go back to the topic. So they say that the school of thought says that the higher retention drives better performance. So I would agree on that too.
I would, yeah.
Being able to take breaks and stuff like that, or just having that good culture too with the people that work around you, and giving them that, hey, that we work together as a team mentality, right? So, yeah, and then there's those people in leadership that get the power trips. Oh, drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So it's like, listen, I know you earned your spot, but like, we're still a team here. I'm trying to do my job, trying to do your job. Like, let's work together here. So my note here is, what is customer retention? And I've got a little bit of a definition to kind of help out with that. Customer retention is a metric that businesses use to measure customer loyalty over time and gauge overall success. To boost customer retention, companies will implement various tactics to reduce the number of customers lost in a period and better their experiences to ensure that they remain loyal to the business.
Yeah, this is kind of like it kind of touches on both aspects of the good employee, the good employer, and also the customer retention aspect of things, right? So, one of my previous places where I used to work at made ungodly amounts of money. However, the managerial situation just wasn't great, and I left that company because of that, right? At the same time, the company that I chose to work for here with Stanley's, the reason why I chose that company is because every time I went into a bid against one of their customers, I never won it. Never once did I ever win a bid against Stanley's. And then every time I went into somewhere where they already had Stanley's, they wouldn't even look at me because they were happy with
The way they were
having us.
treated.
Yeah, with having them as their vendor. So that took a lot of the reason why I chose to be with this company compared to any other company in town. And now that I'm part of the company, I've kind of realized the reason why that is because they sincerely care about their customers and they want to make sure they do the right things by them, regardless of the cost. So.
So what are some ways that you at Stanley's or any of your experience in the past of trying to keep customers coming back, or, like when you're working B2B, so there's a couple different aspects. You got your B2C customers, you got your B2B customers. And so in our space, it's B2B, and in your space, it's B2C.
B2C,
right?
yeah.
So how, in the B2B, we'll start with that. So with you and me, like, what are some ways that we tried to keep those customers from leaving it as an account, right? So once we've earned their business, we've closed them, we've worked with them for 3 or 4 months. Now, there's always a chance after a certain period that they're going to find a cheaper or find somebody they like better or whatever it is. And one thing that comes to mind is I try to stay in touch with communication.
I think communication is definitely a huge aspect of it. One of the things that we do and we try to relate that to our customers is if there's an issue, we want to make sure that you have every channel available to reach all the way to the top.
Yep.
So if there's a problem, we want to make sure that if you need to reach out to the CEO, you can do that. And it has not been uncommon for him where a customer calls him, there's a problem, and he'll drive from Chickasha to Tulsa to meet with them and try to get those issues resolved.
That means a lot, too.
That means a lot.
Yeah,
right?
because a lot of people in that role are like, no, I've hired you to handle this issue.
Correct. And also, I believe maybe giving back to the community is another thing. One of the things that we do for all of our clients is if they want to use this, if they want to use us, they have access to our, we actually have a chuck wagon where we'll come out and feed all their employees 100% free of charge. They'll come out, we'll make burgers for them and everything, just giving back to the community.
Yeah.
It's something that we love to do.
I don't currently, like you said, I'm B2C.
So we can switch that to B2C now.
Well, I just want to touch on B2B for a second because
yeah.
where I used to work, it's business to business. So what we used to do and what they still do is whoever is making the decisions, you always, if they need something done, you just go out and do it for them. So you have to fulfill, even if it's not like business related, you have to have that personal connection with whoever's making the decision to use you as a company, even if it's kind of like, I don't even say like not right, but like scratch my back, I scratch yours. That's business. That is business. So you have to be the one to provide if they need literally anything done. It's like you said, the CEO, if he gets a phone call and he drives from Chickasha to Tulsa just because of one phone call. That's the type of, experience you want to give to your customer.
building that relationship and maintaining
100%.
that too throughout the company, or whether it's just you, doesn't matter.
Right.
So like with my customers, I'm like, hey, you call, text, or email me if you need something. Now you have dedicated people to like work with on specific things. So if it's like related to social or web or whatever it is, like,
Right.
hey, reach out to them either via email or text or phone or whatever. But then if you feel like that whatever it is isn't being resolved, or if it's something maybe outside of that realm with them, come to me. Call, text, email me. Like, I'll work with you on whatever it is.
Something that I've learned is that a customer having a problem becomes a great opportunity, because if they're having an issue and you make the real effort to resolve the problem as quickly as possible and ensure it doesn't happen again, that is going to go a long ways for them.
Right.
I mean, I've had customers that when I showed up on the first time meeting, they hadn't been taken care of for the previous reps or things like that. And I mean, I was literally cussed out from the get-go.
Yeah. And you had
And
said you just walked through
nowadays-
the door.
And nowadays, there's some of my very best customers. I mean, I just got married recently. One of my customers that was like that, she is friends with me on Facebook, and she sent me a message and said, and even called me. He's like, hey, congratulations,
Yeah.
So it's always great to take a customer to the point of they were like, I am leaving you, to, hey,
You're the best.
you're the best rep
Yeah.
we've ever had, and I will always choose you over everybody else.
Right.
And sometimes it's those little impactful moments that make the big difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I've got 9 tips on how to retain customers, and maybe this could apply to both B2B and B2C. So start with 1, create a strong onboarding experience. Oh, that's a good one. And that right there, I'll stop right there. That'll make a drastic difference, because it outlines expectations, communications, like it's opportunities. It's an opportunity to like educate, right? So,
Set expectations too.
yeah. So whenever you have those like exploratory conversations and meetings, and you're like, okay, well, here's what I've outlined for you. Okay, cool. They sign, pay, whatever. And then you have maybe an account manager, maybe that's you or whatever, but you have that conversation of, okay, now you're a customer. Here are the things that I need to make sure to do or to capture or to know that are going to make you and me both more successful.
Right.
And so like I've been working on refining our onboarding process for, it's a little bit long, but it covers like 15 to 20 questions. And I designed this to where it's like, okay, well, what if we did everything, anything that's like offline or online? Like, do you have your logos? What's your business hours? To what does your brand look like? What kind of colors cannot use? What do you want to sound like? What do you want to look like? But when I did 3 of those last week with the team, and that was so cool. And the clients really appreciated it too, because I felt like that we really covered all these different bases. And they were like, it kind of opened up opportunities for them to be like, okay, well, that's a good question. Like, this is how I want to sound. This is how I want to look, or this is how I want that done. And sometimes it's like they don't have a clue, so it brings up opportunities sometimes to be able to upsell, right? And educate too. So, do you have any onboarding process? Is that something?
Yeah.
Do you skip that? And
No.
is it just you?
So
or like,
let's go through the process, right? So we have a process to where we I guess the best way to do it is just let me break down our sales process, right? We meet with the customer, we co-author a solution with them. Once we get validation on that solution, we initiate the sale. At that point in time, we get paperwork signed, submit everything. Shortly after that, they will be receiving a call from our implementation team. So we have a team that actually, their entire job is ensure that implementation goes as smoothly as possible.
that what you sold actually gets followed through.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, for example, we had one today, right? It's a customer of ours, it's an architectural firm. They're getting the full suite of managed network services, phone systems, printers, the whole 9 yards, right? So we had a meeting with them today, say, okay, so we want to make sure that your network is going to be set up the way you want it, that your phone systems are going to be set up the way you want them, be routed exactly the same way that you want them to be, and where all this printers going to go. Do we have fax lines? Do we have the correct power? Do we have everything that we need?
It's like a checklist.
So that way, correct. So that way, whenever we go and implement that, it's just plug and play, ready to go, everything's set up.
Yeah.
And there's no loss, time.
In the beginning of this year, I really actually started about a year ago to where I was like, wow, we really need to work on our onboarding process. And in the last month, I've really worked on trying to refine that too. And it's a whole cycle every year. Like once a quarter, it's sales, then it's marketing, and then it's customer service, and then it's like trying to innovate products or services, and then it's just the whole roundabout. But yeah, creating that handoff plan is what we call it.
There's nothing that will break up a relationship more than when something doesn't go right off the bat.
Yeah.
So if customer signs with you and you go ahead and implement, and then everything is going wrong, everything's gone awry, well, they're already starting with a sour taste in their mouth, and it's going to be very difficult to overcome that over time.
Yeah. I've also in my personal experience, when I get handed off to somebody else, sometimes I don't feel like I get taken care of the same way. And I go back to that first person that sold me.
Exactly.
There's been times like there's a company called HubSpot that they're a huge company, but when I signed up with them 3 or 4 years ago, it was like that. The sales guy did a great job, sold me on it, closed me, and then it created a handoff. He was on that call. I loved the process on it. But then I eventually remember going back and being like, hey, didn't we talk about this? Or, hey, like this person hasn't talked back with me yet. I haven't heard anything. Then there's another company too that kind of did that. And so it's made me realize that either that person that you hand things off to has to be like really engaged and can't be overwhelmed. Like you can't have them managing 60 accounts on a monthly basis,
right,
depending on the industry or the service too, but and the maintenance for each client. They can't have that account manager overwhelmed, because then they lose that touch and they lose that relationship that they were just handed off to, right? But then also like maybe the person that sold them, that closed them on whatever it is, like maybe they maintain the account ownership and relationship, and it never gets handed off. And it kind of depends on what some companies do that. They're like, you find the accounts, you close them, you get your commission, and you maintain the account. And if you lose the account, okay, well then there goes part of your commission. But some of that model like helps retain that customer too, right?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that we do is, right, we go through the sales process with the customer. Now, if there's any issues with the devices or managed network services, they have a customer service line they can call. That customer service line is only answered by like 6 people in the whole company, and they're really good at taking care of those problems for us. Placing service calls, we handle the state of Oklahoma, so our response time has to be 2 to 4 hours anywhere in the state.
Right.
One of the things that we do is we want to make sure that we get that to all of our customers too, right? And then if for some reason, they can't get it taken care of or something like that, they always can come to me. I can try to see what we can do to fix the problem as soon as possible. But then also we do quarterly business reviews with these customers, right? And say, hey, okay, well, you had this many service calls. Why is that being a problem? Trying to get ahead of those issues before they become a problem.
Before they're like, hey, I need to go find somebody else.
Because your customers are not going to tell you.
No.
They're not going to tell you. They're just going to be mad about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, why didn't you play a service call? Well, I don't know. You got to be proactive. And I think that's really something that's important.
Yeah, and the next item on the next number of the next deal on how to retain a customer, and the next tip is provide personalized customer experiences. One of the things that I do is I create thank you cards, handwritten thank you cards. I've started to do that, and once a client signs up, then I write a little note that says, hey, thanks for joining, welcome aboard. We're so excited to work with you. If there's anything that you need, please don't hesitate to contact me. Put my business card in there, thank you card, and snail mail it. And everyone loves getting snail mail to some degree when it's not a Valpak or some,
right,
or some credit card offer. But if it's personalized, like I think that's like a cool little personal touch.
Different.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
So like imagine if you did that with every order.
So that's something that we've actually seen a lot in the.
Oh, you do that with every order.
Yeah, with every order they get a thank you card and a handwritten note on every one of them.
So something that we've actually seen in the print business is that print has actually continued to actually grow. You would think that it's actually going down, but it's not.
Because everything's going digital.
Well, everybody is now loving to have that personal touch. That something that you can feel,
tangible,
which is something we've been talking about for 2 or 3 years.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so there's companies now that they're bringing a lot of their print in house, printing on their own note cards, and even there's software now that you can use to create personalized notes for your customers.
And emails. And like there was a software you were telling me about that's like
XMPie.
That was pretty cool. How does that work?
So it actually automatically creates. So let's say, for example, right, you with their industries, right, most of your audience is going to be interested in cars at some point, right? So you can create personalized cards you can drop them essentially kind of on a sequence on them. And it's on the card, it's going to have a QR code that they can then go into your, a personalized landing page on your store where they can have, the specific, whether they're into imports or American Muscle or whatever. And it's all personalized to that specific person based on their interest.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the emails are personalized and stuff too.
Yeah,
like the landing page is personalized. It has their first and last name, and like it's cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's all very automated too. So you just drop a list of your contacts that you want, and it creates a mailer that you can send out to them. Like I said, it's got a QR code, creates a landing page. Then it also follows up with an email, text message, and it's all automated. So it always keeps them in the, they always keep you in the back of their mind and continue to purchase from you.
The third item on here is to build trust with your customers. And we've kind of touched base on that a little bit though too. But it's again, I think comes down to the communication and building, continually touching base and trying to get ahead of getting ahead of the problems before they're just like, they're not dealing with my problems. And you're like, well, I didn't know you had a problem. Well, correct. You didn't tell me. And they're like, I didn't know I needed to tell you. Yeah. Or I didn't know you could help me out with this anyway. So I found somebody else that said that they could help me out with this. When if you just maintained that relationship a little bit better, had those quarterly audits and those conversations or monthly or whatever it is, and said, hey, do you have any questions? Is there any issues that you're having? Or, hey, I've noticed that you've had 15 service calls this quarter. Like, these are I've looked through those calls, maybe those notes or something. I've seen that, you've continually had the same problem. I've actually got a potential solution. Here's what I propose. And they're like, oh yeah, great. Build trust. So they know you're on top of it too. And a lot of business owners, they want to hire you and know that you're taking care of something off their plate, right?
Right. So one of the things that we do to kind of get ahead of that is we call them, guardian angel calls, right? Oh, so every time a customer has an issue, there's a service call. They send us an email telling us that, hey, there's a service call on this customer. Here's the problem. And they usually follow up with that and say, hey, was the issue resolved? Is it still happening? Okay, let's get somebody else back out there to try to get that fixed. Yeah. So that way they can see that, hey, we know that you have a problem. Is it fixed? And just try to get ahead of that.
The fifth item on here is to maintain a customer communication calendar. All right. Sounds like you're doing that. You both are. Do you have a system like with emails that are scheduled, or do you have anything planned that's like try to just touch points? Those are like little automated MailChimp emails. That's like, hey, 30 days afterwards or 5 days afterwards, it sends an email that says, hey, thanks for whatever. You might be interested in XYZ or.
Yeah, 30 days.
That does?
So, yeah, it does. I got to set up for every 30 days. They're going to get, because we're going to start doing like basically clothing line drops. So every 30 days, they're going to get an update of kind of like what's new. So like next week is probably going to be our workout line. I'm still waiting on our samples to get back in. And then hopefully mid-October to late October, we're going to launch a fall line.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. I'm down.
Those two messages are the ones that always get me.
The what?
There's this sunglass company that I use.
Yeah.
And like every so many weeks, they just send me a text message and it's like, oh, here's the new glasses. And I'm like,
no, I'm going to buy one now.
So which would you prefer? Would you prefer text or emails?
They say text message is the new email.
Text message, man. If you look at my emails, you will see that.
How many you got?
So right now, 15,000 emails.
Oh my God.
You have not oh my goodness.
This is my personal
I
email.
can't do that.
And I just get so much spam that it's like,
yeah.
I don't even want to look at it.
I have 5 in my inbox right now between 7 different email accounts.
Now
and
my
that includes
work email?
2 of my sons,
Yeah.
1 for each of my boys.
Now my work email, that's clear.
Clean, organized.
I
looks
try to
clean and
nice.
organized.
I try to keep that to like a 0 inbox.
My personal
same.
email, if you send me an email, there's a 100% chance that I'm not going to look at it.
Wow. That's okay though. Yeah. Maybe I will transition.
But text message is something that I'll get a text message and my text messages are clear.
I know people that exact opposite though. Like they have thousands of text messages they've never read.
Yeah, I've heard of that
too.
The
bubbles annoy me.
That's what you gotta go both ways, right?
Yeah,
you gotta
attack
have
both fronts.
There's people that enjoy to have the text message. There's people that enjoy having the emails. There's people that enjoy the snail mail.
Yeah,
it's becoming a lot harder for businesses to be able to freaking accommodate everybody.
Yeah,
right. So you have a lot of these companies that are accommodating everybody in every way possible. They're doing text, email, social on every platform. They're on like 6 different platforms. Even if they don't have all their customers on it, they're still on Pinterest or they're still on Twitter. they may not have a ton of engagement on it, but they may have all their people on Facebook or all of them on Instagram, but they're still on the other platforms just in case they have a few customers that really like it. So they're on all of them. And it gets expensive sometimes.
Yeah.
Shoot. Like $80 a month here for MailChimp, $30 a month here for the text messaging platform or whatever. So sometimes it can be hard to decide like what to do. And I think it's not a bad idea to have the platforms available everywhere, but sometimes you don't need to be everywhere all at once and waste the resources. So once you figure out based on the data on how people respond best, so maybe if you have, if it's 40-60, do text and emails.
Yeah.
Right. But if you notice that it's like 10-90, okay, then get rid of
maybe
your
I
emails and
just
your
do,
text.
just text.
Yeah. Cut the cost and forget the resources. So that kind of comes into tip number 6 is send a company newsletter, monthly, quarterly, bi-weekly, whatever. I get text messages from a coffee shop and they're like, hey, it's, come in, grab a coffee and get a free cookie or pastry or something like that. So that's a good employee retention. They do that through
Sounds nice
Square.
right now.
A cookie?
Yeah, something.
Yeah, it does. Number 7 is start a customer education program. This is something that I wanted to do. It's like a social media 101 workshop. It's like a once a week, 2-hour workshop for 4 weeks.
Or even like an open house. Right?
Or an open house, yeah, something like
we,
that.
We do a lot of that too. We have a bunch of different things that we do. But for example, we just had one specifically focused around production. So we invited a bunch of our clients to come into our office. We provide a lunch for everybody and just kind of talk shop, right? Talk about, some of the production equipment that you could be doing in your office, whether you were doing, like I said, posters or whatever. And that actually creates some traction because they may see some things that they may have not even thought about.
Yeah, absolutely. So the customer education program is really cool. I like that a lot. And it comes back to like, how can you expect somebody to make a decision if they're not educated on what decisions to make?
Mostly, I think something like, for example, in the marketing, I've been in marketing before too. You kind of know a little bit about what I've done in the past, but a lot of that stuff is not something that is tangible, right? They're paying for a service.
Yeah.
So how do they know?
It just doesn't exist.
It's
kind of like
it's
the
not
stock
something
market.
they can grab. It's something that they can't see. So you have to show them what the money that they're spending is going to continue to bring in more money.
Yeah.
And if they can't see that, then they're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah. And every industry is completely different. You know that yourself too.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to start an quote unquote Nike brand in 6 months.
Yeah.
Hey, but that's
big ambitions.
That's hard, but go hard or go home.
Yeah. That's kind of how I look at it.
Tip number 8 is offer unique services.
I think there's definitely something that needs to differentiate you across from the rest, right? So, for example, what makes thread industries different than some of the other brands that are doing some of this things?
We're built to give back. So our main goal of the company is to be St. Jude's largest donor in the next 2 years.
Which is
what the number?
What's the number?
$100
million.
$100 million. $100 million and one is what we got to do.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's $1 more, I don't care.
That's the goal. Yeah.
That's
$1 more. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the main goal. That's what makes us different. We're not for, we are for profit, but we're for giving back to St. Jude. That's our main striving goal.
That's awesome.
That's what separates us from every other brand.
Well, I'll tell you what, like I say, we have our food truck. Maybe one day we can get together and put an event and maybe feed some people, get some donations.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
We also love to give back to our community. Every year we do our Stanley's Week of Giving, where all of our employees kind of throw all their nonprofits that they want to support. Yeah. And we give out $10,000 to nonprofits.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be. The straight donations, of course, they just go straight to St. Jude. But it's like everybody asks, what percentage of it goes to. I can't give you the percentage until we're done with the drawing, because it's a percentage of the gross sales in the quarter of the giveaway. So, but we're on track right now to do at least $3,500 in donations in our first giveaway, which is pretty good. We're gonna hope for upwards of 10 to 15 is what we're going for.
I miss using sound effects.
Yeah, you're fine. No, you're
totally.
good.
I get so distracted into like listening and stuff, and sometimes I just forget. I've got really cool sound effects on here, by the way.
What else you got?
Tell me something you failed at. Where's something where has anything happened this year to where you just like crashed and burned and you're like, man, this sucked. This was terrible, and lost the client.
Dang.
Or have you lost a client this year?
What did you fail in customer retention so they left you?
I like that.
What did I feel in customer retention so they left me? So back in March, we actually purchased one of our other competitors, and when we did that, a lot of the clients didn't know anything about Stanley's.
Right.
So when they got bought out, they kind of got scared and were like, "Whoa, we don't want anything to do with this," and we're out.
Yeah.
So a lot of that had to do with me coming in and trying to explain, "Hey, we're not the previous company. We're completely different." And what I would like to call the Stanley's apology tour from the previous company. So, of course, I couldn't save everybody, but
like we have a campaign, and what we're doing is
best.
we're going to visit everybody, and we're handing out cookies.
Yeah, something like that.
Please come back.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, you couldn't save everybody, and some people just didn't make sense, and just kind of had to move on and push through and hopefully try to get him a different way.
There we go. There's the other sound effect.
Gotcha.
Just trying to come up with a reason to use it. Okay, so tip number 9, to start a customer retention program. Kind of comes back into some of the other tips, though, too, by sending a newsletter, having continual education programs and stuff like that, too. Could even involve referral basis type stuff, too, right?
Absolutely.
So some final wrap-up notes. What are some of your thoughts on this whole topic? If there's something I should take away, what would it be?
I would probably say what Gabriel said, be more proactive instead of reactive. If you're trying to retain your customers, you need to be willing to put forth a little bit of effort to ask, hey, is there anything we could improve on? Like the quarterly wrap-up thing you have, that's amazing. That's being proactive instead of reactive.
I like that. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. I mean, I think that's really the biggest aspect to customer retention is just putting a little bit of effort goes a long way with the customer. And being personable. I mean, just being yourself, right? You have to be honest about who you are.
Transparent, authentic.
I mean, I know that you and I, we've been in sales, and everybody has this idea of the car salesman.
Yeah.
Right? Sleazy car salesman that's going to promise you the world.
Especially me in my space, to where there's like 1,000 of me across the world.
Yeah.
And I get emails all the time from Pakistan, India, or wherever it is. And I'm like, I offer these same services, right? Like, why are you trying to sell me on social media? And then everyone else is, I don't know. It's all become like about price. And like, it's hard to really compete with that. So then I have to really work on trying to show the difference of value and price.
One of the things that I've always said is if you're competing on price, it's probably not the right customer for you. If you want somebody who you have to have a customer that you want to, right? Somebody who is going to believe in you to be able to provide the right solution, and it's somebody who is going to listen to you. I guess it's you're not a sales guy. You're more of a consultant, right? And they want to be able. They have to be able to take you seriously, and just a lot of that is just being honest with the customers.
I used to have a joke to where everyone, as soon as I meet with you, you may be trying to, maybe you need a website and we're talking about it, social media or whatever it is, video production stuff. And you're like, hey, how much is this going to cost? And I'm like, well, sorry, but I don't take clients to bed on the first date. I actually come back, talk to my team about it, come up with the ideas, the plan, and then have a proposal for you. And then I've had the other thoughts of, though, too, or the opposite, where it's like, hey, so is $5,000 going to be outside of your budget? Before we continue, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want my time wasted. I want to respect both of us here. Is that going to be an issue? And then I lay out the groundwork. So, I've heard that that's a good tactic, and saying the price right up front, because then it gauges them on, I don't know. Then you don't waste your time, right?
Right. And I think there's questions that you can ask to customers to be able to really figure out their budget without really asking, hey, is this in your budget? Right.
Feeler questions.
Kind of like, what are you currently, for example, in marketing, what are you currently doing for marketing? So that way, if, I'm doing a bunch of mailers, or I'm buying leads, or, that kind of tells you kind of what their budget is, right? What they're going to be spending on. For example, with us is, well, what are you outsourcing, right? What are you bringing in house? Is there something that you would like to bring in house? Is there something that, what kind of software are you using through your organization? Just those type of things that you can kind of gauge what their budget is without being outright telling them, hey, how much are you spending on the, is this going to be too much for you?
Right. My key takeaway is going to be the relationship building aspect on staying in consistent communication, right? Like little touch points. If I think of a potential opportunity for a referral for somebody that I work with, I'm going to be like, hey, or sometimes I like doing this every now and then. I'll find some stats and I'll say, hey, over the Q2 versus Q3, here's how your stats have changed, and I can provide some recommendations if they're bad, or sometimes even provide recommendations if they're good, or not even provide recommendations at all and just say, hey, just want to make sure that you've received your monthly marketing reports. Are you seeing those? Are you looking at those? Do you have any questions? Here's what I'm looking at, Q versus Q, quarter versus quarter. And and then I've got one last tip for how to calculate a customer retention rate. So there's a percentage in that, and so you can find out if your business is growing or declining. And some of that can come down to customer retention, right? To calculate the customer retention rate, you have to divide the total number of customers from the new customers by the number of customers acquired at the beginning of the period. And the formula should look like the total number of customers at the end of the period minus new customers acquired. Divide that by customers at the start of the period, and that gives you your customer retention rate. And so this will be in the show notes and stuff too. So if you guys want to try to figure that out for yourself, it should be pretty easy. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, that's all that I've got. I'm Braden Cruz with Sooner Marketing Solutions, where we create solutions that deliver sooner results. Streaming live at the Blue Studio.
Thank you for having us.
My bad. Chance Jones with Threaded Industries, where we are a brand built to give back.
And I'm Gable with Stanley Systems. Stanley's means technology.
Perfect.
See you guys next Friday.